The overlap of comedy and conversations about God is a fascinating one. And in this video, we're going to be looking at Andrew Schulz, where he points out the irony of someone who had a fairly anti-God agenda.
Anyway, so Christopher Hitchens, what he would do for a living, he would go around the world giving speeches about how God doesn't exist.
And something unfortunate that happened to him. Okay, so if you guys don't know who Andrew Schulz is, he is a comedian based in New York City. He is a part of the Flagrant 2 podcast. He also has a podcast with Charlemagne called The Brilliant Idiots. He is one of the funniest comedians, in my opinion. He is not a Christian comedian. This is not clean content. If you watch any of his other stand-up, there's a lot of profanity. But I do feel like he is very reasonable with some of the hot button topics happening today. And this video is no exception. When I saw this, I thought, this is pretty funny, but I don't know if I'm allowed to laugh at this. Okay, don't know if I'm allowed to laugh at this. So this came up in my feed, and I wanted to share it with you guys. This was on Instagram. Okay, and so let me show you guys this video. Check this out. Okay, let me give you guys a heads up.
Had your kids, had your wife.
Explicit, explicit,
explicit.
I've heard of Christopher Hitchens. He wrote a book called God Is Not Great, which they sell at the airport. I saw a guy buying that shit at the airport. I went up to him. I was like, arrival or departure?
So he's selling his book, and Andrew is shocked that someone would want to buy this book potentially before flight.
To know. I need to know if you're going to my city, so I got to buy 3 Bibles to balance this whole shit out. Anyway, so Christopher Hitchens, what he would do for a living, he would go around the world giving speeches about how God doesn't exist. And then he died recently. And you want to know what he died from? Vocal cord cancer.
I didn't know that Christopher Hitchens passed away from that. That's crazy. I've watched some of Christopher Hitchens' stuff over the years. He's very highly regarded by the atheist and the agnostic community. I didn't know that that's why he died.
That sounds a lot like God going...
Anyway, I had to show you guys that. I think that's hilarious. Listen, theological question. Does God work like that? Serious question. Does God work like that? I don't know. I feel like the scriptures say God cannot be mocked. Yet at the same time, God is a gracious God, desiring that no one would spend an eternity in hell and desiring that everybody would come to him. Right? So I don't know. I don't know. But I will tell you, I do know of things like this happening before. I'll give you guys an example. Once upon a time, I did an event at a church, local church, and there was a pastor who was the leader of the church. And after I did the event, he was a super cool guy, big charismatic guy, big personality. And maybe a month after we did the event, it came out that he was having an affair. Excuse me. And I don't like affair is such a goofy word. Affair is like, he was going to prom, right? An affair. It was a gala, right? He was committing adultery against his wife of like 30 years. And so this pastor was committing adultery and apparently got caught. And then he tried to like justify it and wouldn't sit down. He wouldn't sit down. And I guess the way he set up the bylaws is that he couldn't be sat down by his deacons and his elders. And he was trying to fight this whole thing. And within a week or two of this happening, I'm not exaggerating, this really happened. Within a week or two of this happening, this dude was out on a walk, had a heart attack, and dropped dead. Okay? That's some spooky stuff. I'm not saying that was God. But I'm saying that it's not nothing. All right? I'm saying it's not nothing. And I could tell you about other situations like that. I don't want to... Other friends that have done foul things to their spouses, left in really disgusting ways in the way they treated them. And sure enough, when they get remarried, something really dark happens to them. Okay? So I'm not saying it's God. I'm just saying it's not nothing. All right? MM said, had a pastor from church that cheated on his wife with the church secretary, divorced his wife, happened in 2003, and she died of COVID last year. Yikes. Yeah, that's
Darkness.
Yeah, but what do you guys think? What do you guys think? It's hard to tell. Listen, because I love the God of grace and the God of mercy, and I know God is patient and long suffering. Yet at the same time, there is some things that happen that just go, I'm not playing with God. I'm not playing with God. All right, and I don't think that's a bad motivation, by the way. Like the fear of God striking you to live right and not do goofy things, like open yourself up to a situation where you could ever cheat on your spouse or you could ever do something foul. Like, I think that's a good motivator. That's a good motivator to not be a complete derelict, right? I think the fear of God is a good thing. Maybe we need to talk about the fear of God more often. Shout out to Abel. He references Ananias and Sapphira in the Bible. That's another one. Yeah, that's in the New Testament, right? That's in the New Testament. So yeah, fear of the Lord is definitely the beginning of wisdom. But that, I'm not going to lie to you, that's still some spooky stuff. All right? That's still some spooky stuff. Yeah, Romans 12:19, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Do you think it's appropriate when Christians say that person is burning in hell? I don't speak like that. I don't speak like that. I don't think that's productive. I don't know who is and who isn't. And I just try to avoid speaking about people's eternity because I ultimately don't know what their final moments were. I don't know how all that stuff works. So I personally don't speak about that. Yeah, I try not to speak on that. If you talk more about that than the people going to start putting in the fire and brimstone category. Yeah, so I personally don't talk about that. I don't think correlation is causation, but sometimes things like that are caused by God. Well said, Chris. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately helped me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. And here's the thing, with the hope to create a prayer movement, we've made the PDF version of this prayer journal completely free. So to get the PDF of our prayer journal completely for free, go to blessgodpdf.shop